Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I know. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. This session is doing well, doing good. Thank you for joining us. We have with us Shantell Chambliss, founder of Central Virginia Dress for Success and Nonprofitability. I'm Myra Goodman-Smith, President and CEO of Leadership Metro Richmond. This conversation, I want to thank Jackson Ward Collective for inviting all of us to this wonderful space, and thank Rashida for her guidance and her leadership in our region. This gets me excited to talk about philanthropy and giving and doing well and doing good in our community. I've been in the philanthropic and nonprofit community for my entire life, my career there, and I've seen those spaces created to create impact and make a difference in folks' lives. We have seen individuals who have given their treasures, their talents, their time to help make our community better. This is not a new thing for our folks. We've been doing this for years. We've been giving and being there volunteering and being there when folks needed us. So that sense of giving and making a difference in our community is ingrained in us, I do believe. And that's how we have gone so far by helping one another get there. Businesses, we talked about individuals, but businesses can do the same thing. It's about social responsibility. It's the sense that in the 70s, the thought was there's a contract between businesses and society. That it's businesses' responsibility to help take care of society in which you work. So back in the 1950s, there was a book called Social Responsibility for the Businessman. And it talked about how business should really get ingrained. So this is nothing new to us. Giving of ourselves, giving our time, giving our talents as individuals is what we're made of. Now I'm kind of shift that and says, what about businesses? How can businesses play a role in our community when it comes to change, making change, creating change, and also for the social benefit of us all? Creating organizations. We write checks, we volunteer, but this is just a little bit deeper, a little bit greater doing that. This is more being engaged in the community by starting an organization, an entity to make a difference. Some folks would choose a B Corp. Some would do a 501c3 nonprofit. Individuals sometimes go and work with someone who's already working in that space. So we have with us wonderful, we had a great conversation last week. I have to say that, so we cheated a little bit. But I will say that we're going to have a great conversation about stories about starting a business, a nonprofit business, and how that works and when's the best time to do that. So I want to ask you a little bit tell us about, I've heard about Dress for Success for years. So tell us a little bit about Dress for Success.
Okay. Can you all hear me? Okay. It's so weird hearing yourself.
I know.
So Dress for Success actually started as a brand back in 1997. A young lady got a $5,000 inheritance from her grandfather, said she wanted to do something nice for her community, took that $5,000 and created Dress for Success. It was essentially a clothing closet in the basement of a church in Harlem, and it gave professional clothing to women who were coming out of shelter, coming out of incarceration, to make sure they had something to wear on an interview. That was it, that was all. 2 years into that, a young lady joined the board of directors who was a corporate lawyer at that time, was looking for a way to give back, and she just was like, we can do so much more with this. Her name is Joy Gordon. She was the CEO of Dress for Success for over 25 years, just retired last year, and she created the organization that we are a part of today. So essentially we're a franchise. In the nonprofit space, we call it affiliates. We're a franchise. We're like this. We have been likened to the Starbucks of nonprofits because you can find a Dress for Success in over 140 cities in 30 countries. The model was created so that if a woman here in Richmond needed our services, but then some life started lifing, and she had to pick up and move to Florida, that she knew somewhere in her community she could get access to the same type of services. She didn't have to start all over. If she starts services here and moves to somewhere where we have an affiliate, she can walk right in the door as a current client and can pick up where she left off. So over the past 27 years now, we've evolved into a workforce development organization. So in any Dress for Success in the world, you will find our clothing closet still, but you will also find a career center where women can go to get professional coaching, mentorship as they're transitioning back into the workforce. And then after they're back into the workforce, there's a support system where monthly they can come and attend classes, workshops, seminars. They can continue to build their professional wardrobe, and then they have access to a network of peers. In Richmond, and this is one thing I love about our model and how nonprofits are just amazing because we adapt to where we are. All of us we create additional programming that caters to the needs of our demographic. Back in 2016, we started noticing that a lot of women were coming through our doors to get clothing, to get coaching, but they weren't getting jobs. So we surveyed them, simply just asked them, what's going on? What's happening when you get a job? And two things were happening. They either had criminal backgrounds that was preventing them from being hired, or they did not have the educational requirements of the job. They didn't have their high school diplomas. So we've created two programs since then, one called Jumpstart GED program that covers the cost of women who want to go attend prep classes and take their GED exam, and then the Women's Entrepreneurship Academy, which provides intensive entrepreneurial training and funding for women who are looking to start a business. We started that program as a recidivism reduction plan to help women not go back to prison, but now we've expanded it so that it's available to all of the women that we serve, regardless of their criminal background.
There's so many directions you could have gone in to really impact the community. Why did you pick this journey?
I landed on Dress for Success's doorstep by accident. I was an HR manager, executive, whatever you want to call it, and kind of hated it. But I was like, well, I owe Sally Mae all this money for these good old HR degrees, so I gotta keep working in HR because you know, I still owe Sally Mae for this HR degree that I don't use no more. But I went looking for a volunteer opportunity. And this is the conversation Myra and I had last week, and it was so funny because I hadn't told that story in a long time. You all remember Monster.com? Where everybody used to go look for jobs on Monster. When I was in HR, I was in recruiting, and I would always be the one sent to set up our tables at the Monster job fairs. Y'all remember they used to have the massive job fairs at whatever big hotel in whatever big city they were at. And I started seeing young women, and I was young, I was in my 20s at the time. Young women would come to the job fair, they would be in mini skirts and fishnet stockings and high 5-inch heels or pushing baby strollers. And my peers would always appoint me to kind of stop.
That was by coincidence.
Yeah, we'll say that. But it was always, they appointed me to go and be the roadblock between having to talk to these young women. And I also heard the conversations around the table, right? And I'm like, wow. The amount of judgment being passed to these women, we don't know their situation, we don't know what they came from. Maybe they don't know that they should have worn a suit versus a mini skirt because you don't know what you don't know. Oh. And so I'm like, who's helping these women learn? Who's giving them access to this information? Who's telling them, hey, there's a job fair today, but here's what you need to wear. Instead of saying, there's a job fair today, you better go in there and try to see who can hire you, right? And so I just went looking for an opportunity to share that knowledge. And someone mentioned Dress for Success to me, and I thought it was all about the clothes. So I was like, oh, well, I'll donate some clothes, and learned that they also did resume writing and career coaching. And so I really just wanted to volunteer. There was not a Dress for Success in Richmond. So I called New York because I'm a Scorpio, and sometimes I could be a little persistent. Okay. So I called New York. I was like, what y'all doing? Ain't no Dress for Success in Richmond. And I'm like, where's the next one? And she's like, Norfolk. I'm like, where's another one? She's like, DC. And I'm like, this whole region, y'all just nothing? No one's ever. And she was like, well, Shantell, if you wanted that bad, you started. And I was like, well, I have a job. So no, I'm not going to do that. And here I am 11 years later, and this is my full-time job. And so That's how I ended up there. I really just wanted to use my HR skills that I learned right over at VCU. I just wanted to put them to good use. I wanted to feel like that degree was worth something. And it didn't feel that way sitting behind a big desk.
But you also have a for-profit business.
I do.
Along those. Talk a little about that.
So early in my HR career, I started, about entrepreneurship is just kind of in my DNA. I started a HR consulting practice where companies, small businesses would outsource their back end to me, and I would just manage their back end HR operations. When I started Dress for Success, in the first couple of years, it was so successful that I didn't even know that it was successful. I'm like, I'm just doing the thing, right? And other people started coming to me going, how do you do this? How do you start a nonprofit? How do you do this? How do you do this? That I started kind of shifting my consultancy to nonprofits. And then in 2017, I decided I hate HR. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. Like, no shade to the HR professionals in the room. I kind of hate it. So I shifted the entire practice to focus on starting and scaling nonprofits. So since 2017, Nonprofitability, a play on the words nonprofit and sustainability. People think it's profitability, but it's really sustainability. Nonprofitability we've helped start more than 350 nonprofits across the country. Our primary focus is on fundraising, development, and strategic planning. Okay. Essentially, what I want is for the organizations that are doing good in our communities to be scalable and to be sustainable. It's hard to start a nonprofit and you want to do this amazing work, but you can't get it off the ground. And our communities really do need that good work.
That's good work. You had a couple of options going down the road. 501c3 nonprofit or B Corp. A lot of people doing that these days. Maybe that's the way the national organization was set up, but did you really look into the B Corp more in the nonprofit world? I
did look into the B Corp, and actually we are still considering pursuing a B Corp for our entrepreneurship program. The entrepreneurship program is unique to Central Virginia. It does not belong to Dress for Success. So we are playing around with the idea of making it a separate entity, and we're having that discussion. Is it a for-profit? Is it a nonprofit? Is it a B Corp? I love the concept of a B Corp, and I share this around GR.
Okay.
So a B Corp is a benefit corporation. It's essentially like a social enterprise that, unlike a 501c3, the focus is to make profit, but to use it for good. It's a difference, right? Nonprofits, and we talked about this, we hate the name nonprofit. It is a misnomer. It don't make sense. It's not. Profit. It's something. We do need profit, and we do make profit, right?
Yeah.
It's what we do with the profit that is different. So nonprofit I tell people, nonprofit does not mean no money. What we do with the profit inside of a 501c3 is different. It's not that we don't attempt to make a profit. It is really our number one goal. But with a B Corp, you are looking at your infrastructure and making sure that it is socially responsible, that your employees are treated well and paid a certain, like you can't pay under a certain rate, and your benefits have to have this amount of flexibility and accessibility and things like that. So a B Corp, instead of just looking at the profit, it really controls how the entire organization is structured. Myra and I talked about this in our little cheat conversation.
It's a lot of work.
The process is horrific because they are trying to make it a very exclusive thing, right? And so it's kind of like how 501c3s were back when they became a thing. You had to go through so much red tape to become a 501c3. Yeah. My firm I've created a process to now where I'm getting most 501c3s approved in under 14 days. That was unheard of 10 years ago. And same thing with B Corp. So I'm really just trying to wait them out till I figure this process out and I can get it done in 14 days, and then we're good. But we're exploring that, and really where we choose, and I talk to a lot of everybody here, I'm guessing, is a for-profit business who's thinking about philanthropy. The conversation I have with most for-profit business owners is this: what impact do you want to have on your community, right? B Corps, you more so want to have an impact inside of your organization, right? When you want to impact the community at large, you're leaning towards 501c3. And all for-profits should probably be leaning towards either or, right?
So for you to go down this road, because we all have plates. And I don't know if your plate looks like my plate, but my plate keeps falling over, stuff falling off my plate because I got so much going on. How did you find that time to squeeze out to do this while you were still working?
I didn't.
Okay.
I'll be honest. I threw away the concept of work-life balance. I don't believe in it. It's toxic. It's a part of our very toxic Eastern culture, or Western culture, I should say. Really, your work and your lifestyle have to be integrated. So I believe in work-life integration, right? Some things, I can't remember the name of the author, but she was like, the problem we all have is we try to juggle all these balls and not let any of them fall. When the humanity in you should let some fall, right? So, and I don't meet every deadline. I don't respond to every email in the same day. I miss a lot of calls. I do prioritize, but the priorities shift daily, right? Sometimes we prioritize and then we go, well, this is the priority. Well, if it's the priority every single day, is it a priority anymore? is it a priority? So I kind of just try to get things done. I have 3 goals every day and they change every day. And the other stuff that doesn't, if those 3 things get done, then today was a good day. And sometimes those 3 things look like eat 3 meals. Sometimes those 3 things look like finish this grant proposal, right? It changes every day depending on what's happening, but attempting to balance my life or try to adhere to society's expectation of work-life balance was literally killing me. And no.
So that balance thing is just not your thing. So yeah, in essence, it's not 2 separate things. It's you.
Yeah, it's only one you. We're saying work-life balance, which would say this. Mm-hmm. There's only one of you. So when we integrate, we create this one thing.
How did you go about becoming you decided 501c3 for your organization. How did you get help to do that? How did you go about doing that?
It's funny because starting Dress for Success is kind of how I ended up starting Nonprofitability. I was so lost when Dress for Success Worldwide said, yes, you have our permission to use our brand. Does anybody here own a franchise? So if you decide to buy McDonald's doesn't go find a building for you. If you say, I want to become a franchisee of McDonald's, they don't say, well, here's a building. Here's all the licenses you need.
Here's the golden arches.
You have to go do that stuff yourself. You pay the licensing fee. You're licensing the use of the brand, the name, the model, but you're not getting all that business acumen. It doesn't come along with this franchise. So when Dress for Success Worldwide say, you're approved, now go. That's it. They don't give you any money. They don't give you a checklist, right? You have to report back and say you have done these things to adhere to their branding guidelines, but you kind of got to go figure it out on your own. I came to realize 11 years ago, there were very few nonprofit consultants in this city. Lots of lawyers who had nonprofits as clients, but not nonprofit attorneys. And so it really ended up being a guessing game. Luckily, I had been a consultant for a while. I'm a researcher by nature, and I figured it out.
You figured it out.
But then when people came to me and said, how do you do this? I had to create a process to be like, no one had a process. LegalZoom popped up some years ago, and they do it wrong. I hope somebody recording that. LegalZoom does it wrong.
Well, I keep hearing people say, I got my bylaws from LegalZoom. I mean, honestly, that's a lot of folks are doing that.
I'll lie to y'all not. I made my first 6 figures in consulting correcting LegalZoom mistakes. I should thank them. Somebody record that part too. I should thank them. The first year of my business, the majority of my clients were people who had went through LegalZoom to set up their nonprofits, but then when they went to write a grant or had to submit something, it was wrong because they tried to standardize it. They tried to standardize it.
Approach.
Yeah, you can't do in every state where I've set up nonprofits, the process is a little different, and they cookie cutter it, and so a lot of nonprofits missed out on funding opportunities or opportunities period using that method.
So you're telling me that from your experience of setting up a nonprofit, it kind of put you in a place to focus your for-profit life.
It helped me it helped me find alignment, right? It allowed me setting up this nonprofit because I just wanted some place to utilize my HR skills, led me into a whole second career of consulting. I had already been consulting, but nonprofit consulting.
Right.
And then helping to expand on that. How do we find money, especially as Black-led, Black-focused nonprofits? How do we find funding? What does strategy look like? Most strategic you hear organizations talk about, we're strategic planning. The average strategic plan costs about $25,000. It is a 6-month process, right? It's a long process. It is not a 2-day, let's get in a room and write a business plan type of deal. It is a really complex, expensive process. And most Black nonprofits, Black-led, Black-focused nonprofits just didn't have it. So what services, what offerings, what opportunities could we create for Black-led, Black-focused nonprofits to have access to those services and those type of opportunities so that they can grow?
So you're filling the gap.
I'm trying.
There. Wow. When was it, where along your journey did you decide this was the right time to do it?
For starting the nonprofit?
Mm-hmm.
It really was when we see a need. Starting a nonprofit business is no different than starting a for-profit business. We all hear entrepreneurs are problem solvers. You solve people's problems. Well, so does a nonprofit. Actually, most of the solutions, it's a quote when I present, there's a quote that I open with that says the solutions to society's greatest problems are found in the nonprofit sector. Cancer research. When you all write checks to the American Breast Cancer Society, those are nonprofits. They're the boots on the ground, doing the hard work to create solutions for our biggest problems: climate change, cancer, hunger, homelessness. More than likely, whoever is at the forefront of finding solutions to those issues are a nonprofit.
You're right. Nonprofits, I was reading the other day, really, a lot of nonprofits do what others won't do or can't do.
Mm-hmm.
And in essence, nonprofits, when it comes to your work and other nonprofits, you're closer to the ground, you understand the constituents. You understand people probably better than government and other organizations because we are in it.
Yeah.
Instead of not just saying what to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that nonprofits, I call it the third leg of the three-legged stool. Government, for-profit, nonprofits. Without good nonprofits in our region, the stool will tip over. It really will.
Absolutely.
How has this impacted you personally? What has this done for you? Because we talk about business a lot, we're still us. How's it done for you?
It has shifted me from a person who I used to just get up and go to work. It was very functional, right? My career life was very functional.
Okay.
Now it is very transactional. Now my work life is very intentional. I know that word is so overused and so cliche, but literally, even on the days where the workload isn't super heavy, there's something that I'm doing that's gonna affect the next thing. When I was in corporate, if I didn't finish this report by XYZ, I promise y'all, nothing gonna happen. Nothing. Nothing was gonna happen. No matter how much your bosses acted like the world was going to end, it wasn't. And it made me just kind of center myself with myself, right, inside of my community. I actually become an active part of the community. I become a giver and a taker, right? I utilize other nonprofit services. Right. We all have. None of us have made it to any point in our life without utilizing the service of a nonprofit directly or indirectly. So just coming into this space just kind of made me center myself, align myself more with my community rather than operating around my community.
Gotcha. I'm trying to remember. We have to 2:15.
Do we?
Do we have 2:15?
Yeah, I think so.
We're 2:15? Yeah. I'm going to stop. Can we stop for questions? Yes. Let's stop for questions. Okay. Just speak loudly because we don't have a mic to.
No, we have the little box thing.
Okay. The little box thing? Give us the mic. Yes. Good time for questions. As we're getting the mic out, I want to congratulate you on what you're doing.
Thank you.
And for me, I think more nonprofits need to hear about you, because I've been in the nonprofit sector for 40 number of years, and I've not known your business. I mean, I did not know.
Oh, well, see, you don't now. You don't know what you don't know, but we're going to get that straight.
What's over the box? I really feel old.
So thank you so much for this conversation. So the question that I have, I was recently advised, I have a for-profit, but I was recently advised to think about adding a charitable arm to Mitchell Productions. So I wanted you all's thoughts on what that is and just your thoughts around that.
Oh, Charlotte. You know I could go on for days about this.
Go ahead.
I think every for-profit entity should have a charitable arm. That's not to say start a nonprofit, but you should have some philanthropic initiative that's a part of your for-profit business. A couple of reasons. One, it increases your corporate social responsibility. It increases your presence in the community, because now you're going, hey, I'm giving back to my community. Again, I'm in the community, not around the community. Secondly, there's a study done. The study, I probably need to do some research to see if it's been updated. There was a study done at a university in Ohio that said that if you run a for-profit business and you tell your constituents or your supporters that you are donating at least 1% of your profit to a charity, you can raise your price by 10 to 25% and they will not care. You can raise your price. You don't have to make the announcement going, I'm raising my price 10% because I'm giving away 1%. But if you just incorporate philanthropy into your business model, you can increase your prices and your customers won't care. And nobody has shown us that better than Tom's, the little ugly shoes that are super comfortable. So y'all know for every shoe that you buy, they give one away. Go back 5 years and look at how much those shoes were and look at how much they are now. The more they can announce that they give away, the more they raise the price. The price inches up. When they, at the end of the year, when they go, we've given away 500,000 shoes, the price goes up a little bit. Because y'all don't care no more.
Is that like Bumpers socks?
Yes.
Okay,
Bombers is another one, yes.
He's never spent that much money on socks before. And now every time I turn him in, Bumpers is coming
Because
out.
every part of their advertising says they are giving back to their community. So we don't care.
I'm shocked he's doing it. Just here.
I no longer have a question because that was pretty much
And actually, I had the same question on my paper too. You in sync. Go for another one.
It's similar to that, but just the question is, can you give an example of what that charitable arm? Because when you said not necessarily nonprofit, I was like, oh wait.
So what would that look like? So Mitchell Productions, for you all that don't know Charbet, she's a marketing genius, guru, all of that good stuff. She's been in media, all that. So let's say Charbet decides that she is going to, for every person that purchased her signature service, she's going to enroll a under-resourced woman into that service.
Right.
She doesn't have to start a nonprofit to do that, but what she can do is she can raise the price of that signature service by 15% to pay for the enrollment of the woman, the under-resourced woman who can't afford the signature service.
Because in many ways, it doesn't have to be complicated.
No.
Barbers at the beginning of the school year, free haircuts. I mean, in that
Yeah.
sense, using the abilities that you have within your business and knowledge that you have and making a difference.
Absolutely. And that's what that, and she doesn't have to start a nonprofit to do that, but what she does have to do is incorporate it into her branding and her marketing. So what my bookkeeper will probably do is when you enroll this person pro bono, you'll just take like a write-off. You'll write that off, kind of like when we write off an unpaid invoice. Same thing.
No, this is great conversation. My name's Rosalind Goodwin. Gabby and I are founder of Confidence, a pro girl business fund. And you mentioned Gabby, we launched an academy 7 years ago. 7, 6? I don't know.
Time flies.
It's been a while. But we helped over 50 Black girls start their own businesses on the ground. Tell me all the things we did wrong. So
So let me say this. And one, I have been following you and Gabby since you all started. I saw you all at TSP Live probably in like 2018, 2019. I cannot believe how much you have grown up. That is like mind blowing. Okay, first of all.
I love it.
For you all, and I'm giving some unsolicited consultation here. For your brand, I would start the 501c3. Yes. One, your brand is huge. Like when I walk down the aisle at Target, I see Gabby's bows. No, absolutely, you should have a charitable foundation that is attached to your for-profit business because your brand is just so large, right? Wow. However, I heard you say a 501c3 is so much work because somebody told you that it is a whole lot of work. But for a foundation that's ran, a 501c3 that's ran alongside a for-profit business, you really could scale that back to something where the board meets once a year. Legally, you don't need but 3 people on the board. Right. Y'all are in Georgia, right? South Carolina, 3 people. South Carolina, you need 3 people. Mm-hmm. So you need 3 people on the board that can meet annually, set your strategic goals, and then you go off and do it.
But not a staff person that's dedicated to that work?
There are thousands of nonprofits that are 100% volunteer-led, no staff.
You don't have to have staff.
You do have to have a board. You do not have to have staff.
And then as you go through your life cycle, you may get to that point that you need a staff as you mature the organization, just like for-profit businesses. You probably started out with a few staff and then you have more. Right. The same thing applies when it comes to nonprofit.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. No problem. But I would love to talk to you about that since you all have already done it. So we can schedule a complimentary consultation.
And say the name of your company and say what you do, please. Yeah.
It's not working.
She mentioned your company. Confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Gabby Bowes?
So it's Gabby Bowes and Confidence by Gabby. Are they 2 separate businesses? Okay.
People still associate us with Gabby Bowes. That's the name of the invention.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
And so the benefit would be that they can get grants and funding.
Absolutely.
That's it.
So I will say this, the 501c3 does grant you access to a bigger landscape of funding opportunities, right? So if you do it, kind of how I just told you, I had to do it where you don't got to start a 501c3, it does kind of limit her access to funding. There's still a lot of for-profit grants where if you say in that grant proposal that this is, hey, I'm using this money to allow under-resourced women to have access to this service, and you probably could still qualify. 501c3 does open you up to a broader range of funding opportunities.
Hi, I'm Gwen Corley-Creighton. I don't have a question, but I really just want to sing the praises of Dr. Shantell Chambliss. You know, we talk about, 501c3, how hard it is. We had a virtual meeting in October of 2022. Because of things that were going on personally, we weren't able to contract with her until, I think it was January of this year. By March, in the state of South Carolina, we formally had our 501c3. It's a family effort related to preserving some land that my great-great-grandfather bought. We had a 501c3. Her process is so structured and so easy to navigate. We had to know purpose, what all we were going to do. By answering those questions, she did all of the paperwork for the IRS for the state of South Carolina. Within 6 weeks, we had our 501c3 designation by the IRS. She even told me after we did that, other documents to fill out. We got bylaws, we have officers. Everything was structured within that 6-week period that she did. So if you're interested in doing 501c3, regardless of what state it is, go contract with Dr. Shantell Chambliss. It's worth it. I mean, it has been phenomenal. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you,
and thank you for
thank
what
you.
you're doing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, it does not have to be as hard as we think it is. But it's really important for the sustainability of your for-profit businesses to indulge in philanthropy.
I think we talked about the impact of what you do on business. Any more questions? 5 more minutes. Impact. So in essence, we kind of go into this not saying I want to do this because I want to make my business better.
Right.
I'm doing this because I want to make a greater impact. How has maybe your peers seen you in this light of what you're doing?
I don't know. My peers are.
But other people, other businesses that you work with.
Other businesses are often shocked,
Okay.
right? One, they think because I run a nonprofit, I'm broke. And don't get me wrong, you don't go into the nonprofit sector to become a millionaire. But what I will say is I'm afforded a great lifestyle because I've learned that, one, running a nonprofit is a business.
Yes, it is.
And when you run a nonprofit, you're laser focused in on a mission, right? So then it makes me a subject matter expert. So I'm getting speaking engagements for workforce development, but then speaking engagements on how to run a nonprofit. And then you build a personal brand alongside this nonprofit that kind of, it's a career. I don't go out here just to make. Someone asked me, they're like, so do you just work for free?
No, I know people think that nonprofits.
I'm like, no, I cannot work for free. I have a toddler and pull-ups are $50 a box. No, so that's impossible. And so it's a lot of surprise and shock that you can make a living doing something you love and fulfilling your purpose. It is very nice. Yes, I agree.
And that's why I've stayed in the nonprofit sector my entire life. It was just that fulfilling feeling I was doing something to create impact in folks' lives. And I grew up in this town, so it's kind of like, and you did too.
Same.
We talked about she's East End, I'm West End. And the two should meet. Last one piece of advice to share with everyone, maybe one or two pieces of advice as we close out that you would share with folks as thinking about being more engaged in our community, using your resources and your businesses to do so.
My biggest piece of advice would be know that you are needed. There's whatever you all do. I don't even have to know what the business is. It could be making pizzas, doing taxes, whatever. Somewhere in your community, someone needs you, and someone does not have access to you, or they just don't know that you exist. So I would say make sure that you are ingraining yourself in your community. So East End, West End, right? Like from the East End, I'm going to go, if anybody invites me to a community day at a school in the East End, whether it was a school I went to or not, I'm there because I want to make sure those kids know about things that I didn't know about when I was there. So even if you don't go out and start a 501c3, please make yourself visible and accessible in your communities because someone needs you, especially entrepreneurs, the problems you all solve. Your community needs that, and they don't know that you exist, and sometimes they don't even know that there is a solution out here. So make yourself available and visible, not just to people who you know can stroke you a 4-figure check, but to people who can't, right? And because somebody will pay for it.
And don't think about, I can't do this.
Yes.
So can't. We put our own barriers up often. That we can't do that. Let me just shameless plug. At LMR, we encourage individuals to go onto nonprofit boards. Nonprofit boards are not just CEOs of big corporations. We need the voices of the community at the board table. They're making decisions about us.
Yeah.
So we need to be there. So think about how you can get engaged. When you do that, your company's name's out there. You're out there, you're expanding your network of individuals in the community, so it's a win-win for you to get engaged in our community, from nonprofit boards to governmental boards, a lot of commissions and advisory boards in the city and counties. Just spend a little time and get engaged, and it does a lot. As your child will get older, we'll see that mom is out doing good.
Yep.
And that's for me. I saw my parents doing good, and that encouraged me to do good.
Yeah,
Doing
definitely.
well, doing
good.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.